9-year-old Olivia Chen had always been a dancer. From the moment she could walk, she moved to music with a natural grace that amazed everyone who watched her. Her bedroom walls were covered with photos of ballet performances, contemporary dance competitions, and moments from the countless recitals where she had performed since she was 4 years old. But now, as she sat in her hospital bed at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, looking at the IV line in her small arm and the medical equipment surrounding her, Olivia wondered if she would ever dance again. 3 weeks earlier, Olivia had been in the middle of rehearsals for her dance studio's annual spring showcase when she collapsed during practice. What her parents David and Lynn Chen initially thought was exhaustion from too much dancing turned out to be something far more serious, a brain tumor that required immediate surgical intervention. The doctors explained that while the tumor appeared to be benign, its location near the motor cortex meant that the surgery carried significant risks, including the possibility that Olivia might lose some of her coordination and motor skills. The very abilities that made dance the center of her young life. "Will I still be able to dance after the surgery?" had been Olivia's first question when the doctors explained what needed to happen. "We're going to do everything we can to preserve your motor function," Dr. Sarah Williams had replied carefully. "But I want you to understand that there might be some changes in how your body moves afterward. We'll work with physical therapy and rehabilitation, but it might be different from what you're used to." Olivia had absorbed this information with the kind of mature composure that often emerges in children facing serious medical challenges. She didn't cry or protest. Instead, she asked if she could have one more dance session before the surgery, which was scheduled for the following Tuesday. "I want to dance to all my favorite songs one more time," Olivia told her parents. "Just in case dancing feels different afterward, I want to remember how it feels now." David and Lynn Chen felt their hearts breaking as they watched their daughter process the possibility of losing the thing she loved most in the world. But they also recognized the strength and wisdom in her request. Olivia wanted to celebrate her ability while she still had it, rather than spend her time worrying about what might be lost. The night before her surgery, Olivia asked her mother to help her set up her phone to record a video in her hospital room. She had compiled a playlist of her favorite Taylor Swift songs, music that had been the soundtrack to many of her dance routines over the years, and she wanted to dance to each one as a way of saying goodbye to movement as she currently knew it. "This is my final dance before surgery," Olivia said to the camera, wearing her favorite purple leotard and ballet slippers that her parents had brought from home. "Tomorrow the doctors are going to fix my brain, but they said dancing might be different afterward. So I want to dance to all my favorite Taylor Swift songs tonight, because her music always makes me feel like I can do anything." What followed was 45 minutes of the most heartbreakingly beautiful dancing anyone had ever captured on a phone camera. Olivia performed with the grace of someone far beyond her 9 years, interpreting Taylor's songs through movement that ranged from classical ballet to contemporary dance to the kind of joyful, uninhibited dancing that only children can achieve. She began with 22, spinning and leaping around her hospital room with pure joy, transforming the sterile medical environment into her personal stage. "I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. She sang along while executing perfect pirouettes between her hospital bed and the window overlooking the Pittsburgh skyline. For Love Story, Olivia performed a delicate ballet routine that she had choreographed herself, using the space between medical equipment to create graceful lines and elegant poses. Her movements told the story of the song through dance, with gestures that conveyed the romance and drama of the lyrics, while showcasing technique that would have impressed professional instructors. But it was during Shake It Off that Olivia's personality truly shone through. She abandoned formal technique entirely, dancing with the kind of uninhibited joy that represented everything beautiful about childhood. She shook off her fears, her sadness, and her uncertainty about the future, replacing them with pure celebration of movement and music. "The player's gonna play, 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 and the hater's gonna hate, hate, hate," Olivia sang, adding her own dance moves that were part cheerleading routine, part interpretive dance, part 9-year-old silliness that made her parents cry happy tears as they watched their daughter reclaim joy in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. Each song brought a different style of dance, showcasing the breadth of Olivia's training and natural ability. For Cardigan, she performed a haunting contemporary piece that seemed to capture all her complex emotions about growing up too fast due to medical circumstances. For the best day, she included moves that she said were inspired by memories of dancing with her parents in their living room when she was younger. The final song on her playlist was Long Live, and for this dance, Olivia spoke directly to the camera before beginning. This last song is about how the best things in life live forever, even when everything else changes, she explained, her 9-year-old wisdom shining through her words. Even if I dance differently after tomorrow, the love I have for dancing will live long in my heart forever. Her performance of Long Live was a masterpiece of emotional expression through movement. Olivia danced as if she were performing for a stadium full of people, with gestures that conveyed triumph, nostalgia, hope, and acceptance. By the time the song ended, she was crying, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming beauty of using her body to express feelings that were too big for words. "Thank you, Taylor Swift, for making music that helps me dance through everything," Olivia said to the camera as her video concluded. "Tomorrow I'm going to be brave, and someday I hope I can dance for you in person to show you how much your songs have meant to me." Olivia Chen uploaded Olivia's video to TikTok that night with the caption, "My brave daughter's final dance before brain surgery tomorrow. She wanted to dance to a Taylor Swift songs one more time before everything changes. Please send positive thoughts for her surgery. #OliviaStrong, #DanceForLife, #brain surgery." The video was initially seen by family members and friends who had been following Olivia's medical journey. But something about the combination of her extraordinary talent, her mature courage, and the poignant context of dancing before potentially life-changing surgery began to resonate with viewers who shared it with their own networks. Within 24 hours, while Olivia was in surgery, her video had been viewed over 500,000 times. Comments poured in from people around the world who were moved by her grace under pressure, her obvious love for dance, and her mature approach to facing something so frightening. Professional dancers, dance teachers, and other children dealing with medical challenges shared their own stories of how dance had helped them through difficult times. But the person who mattered most hadn't seen it yet. Taylor Swift was in her Nashville studio working on new material when her management team received dozens of messages from fans asking if she had seen the Olivia video. Initially dismissive of what they assumed was typical fan content, her team's attitude changed when they watched the video themselves and realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. "You need to see this immediately," Taylor's manager called her during a break between recording sessions. "There's a 9-year-old girl who, Taylor, just watch it, but maybe sit down first." When Taylor watched Olivia's final dance video, she was overwhelmed by emotions that left her unable to focus on anything else for the rest of the day. This brave child had created a love letter to music and movement, while facing the possibility of losing the very abilities that brought her such joy. Olivia's understanding of Taylor's songs, expressed through dance rather than words, revealed interpretations that were both sophisticated and deeply personal. What affected Taylor most profoundly was Olivia's maturity in the face of uncertainty, and her decision to celebrate her abilities rather than mourn what might be lost. The 9-year-old's approach to her surgery demonstrated a wisdom about living fully in the present moment that most adults never achieve. "I have to do something," Taylor told her team. "This girl understood my music in a way that was pure magic, and she's about to go through something that might change her life forever. She deserves to know that her dancing moved people just as much as my songs moved her." But Olivia's surgery was already underway by the time Taylor saw the video. The operation took 6 hours, with Dr. Williams carefully removing the tumor while monitoring Olivia's brain function in real time to minimize damage to motor control areas. The surgery was successful in removing the entire tumor, but the question of how Olivia's coordination and movement would be affected wouldn't be answered until she woke up and began the recovery process. When Olivia emerged from surgery, her first words to her parents were, "Can I still move my hands? Can I still move my feet?" The relief on her face when she discovered that basic motor function remained intact was profound, but everyone understood that the full extent of any changes wouldn't be known for several days. That's when Taylor Swift decided to take action that went far beyond a typical celebrity response to fan content. 3 days after Olivia's surgery, as she was beginning physical therapy to assess and rebuild her coordination, she received a visitor that no one at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh had expected. Taylor Swift arrived quietly, without media attention or fanfare, carrying a guitar and wearing the kind of simple clothes that suggested she was there as a person rather than a celebrity. "Hi, Olivia," Taylor said as she entered the room where Olivia was working with her physical therapist on basic movement exercises. "I saw your video, and I wanted to come tell you in person that it was the most beautiful dancing I've ever seen." Olivia stared at Taylor for several seconds, convinced she was hallucinating from post-surgery medication. "Are you really Taylor Swift, or am I dreaming?" "I'm really here," Taylor confirmed, sitting down beside Olivia's hospital bed. "And I came to ask you something very important. Would you teach me some of those dance moves you created for my songs? Because what you did was so much more creative and expressive than anything I had ever imagined for those pieces." For the next 2 hours, Taylor and Olivia worked together in the hospital room, with Olivia demonstrating modified versions of her choreography, while Taylor learned the movements and asked questions about Olivia's creative process. The physical therapist, initially concerned about interrupting Olivia's scheduled recovery activities, quickly realized that this impromptu dance session was providing more motivation and coordination practice than any formal therapy could have achieved. "This move during the Shake It Off chorus," Taylor said, attempting to replicate one of Olivia's gestures. "How did you come up with that? It perfectly captures the feeling of the lyrics." "I thought about what it would feel like to literally shake sadness off your shoulders," Olivia explained, her eyes bright with the joy of discussing her art with someone who appreciated its sophistication. "So I made the movement look like you're brushing away bad feelings and replacing them with sparkly happy ones." As they danced together, something remarkable became apparent. While Olivia's coordination was indeed different post-surgery, her essential grace and musicality remained intact. Her movements were slightly less precise than before, but they carried the same emotional authenticity that had made her original video so compelling. More importantly, working through the choreography was clearly helping her rebuild neural pathways and muscle memory in a way that traditional physical therapy alone might not have achieved. Taylor made a decision that surprised everyone, including her own team. "Olivia, I want to ask you something. I have a concert next week in Columbus. That's not too far from here. If your doctors say it's okay, would you like to come perform one of these dances with me on stage? I think the world needs to see that healing can be beautiful, and that courage looks like a 9-year-old girl who chooses to keep dancing no matter what." Olivia's eyes filled with tears of joy as she nodded eagerly. "Really, you want me to dance with you, even though I'm not as good as I was before?" "You're not as good," Taylor corrected gently. "You're different now, and different can be beautiful too. Your dancing tells a story about bravery and healing that nobody else can tell. That makes it more valuable, not less." With her doctor's approval and careful medical supervision, Olivia attended Taylor's concert the following week. During the acoustic segment of the show, Taylor invited her on stage to perform their modified version of Shake It Off, a routine that incorporated both Olivia's original choreography and adaptations that accommodated her post-surgery coordination. The performance was breathtaking, not because it was technically perfect, but because it demonstrated the resilience of human creativity and the power of art to transcend physical limitations. Olivia danced with pure joy, and while her movements were different from those captured in her pre-surgery video, they carried a new depth of meaning that came from someone who had faced the possibility of losing something precious and discovered that love for art can adapt and survive even dramatic changes. "This is Olivia Chen," Taylor told the 50,000-person audience as their dance concluded. "1 week ago, she had brain surgery. 3 weeks ago, she created some of the most beautiful choreography I've ever seen for my songs. Tonight, She's showing all of us that healing doesn't mean going back to exactly how things were before. It means finding new ways to express the same love and passion that have always been inside us. The audience's response was overwhelming, but more meaningful than the applause was what happened afterward. Olivia's story, shared through both her original video and her concert appearance, inspired thousands of other children and families dealing with medical challenges. Dance studios around the country began incorporating Olivia's moves into their classes, and several hospitals started using music and movement therapy programs inspired by her recovery process. 6 months later, Olivia Chen was not the same dancer she had been before her surgery. She was better. Her technique had evolved to accommodate her slightly altered coordination, but her emotional expression through movement had deepened in ways that amazed her instructors. She had learned to work with her body's new reality rather than fighting against it, creating a style that was uniquely her own. Dancing feels different now, Olivia explained in a follow-up video she made for the anniversary of her surgery. Some things are harder, and some things I have to do differently, but I learned that loving something doesn't mean it has to stay exactly the same forever. Love means finding new ways to keep doing what makes you happy. Taylor continued to check in on Olivia's progress, sending encouragement videos before dance competitions and celebrating milestones in her recovery. But perhaps more meaningfully, their connection had taught both of them something important about resilience, adaptation, and the unbreakable connection between art and healing. Years later, when Olivia had become a competitive dancer specializing in contemporary and adaptive movement, she would often tell her story to younger dancers facing their own challenges. She kept her pre-surgery video as a reminder of who she had been, but her favorite recording was from her performance with Taylor Swift. Not because it featured a celebrity, but because it captured the moment when she learned that healing doesn't mean returning to an original state. It means finding new ways to express the same essential self. "That night taught me that courage isn't about not being scared," Olivia would say. "Courage is about dancing anyway, even when everything about dancing has changed. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to dance through the hard things, you discover that you're stronger and more beautiful than you ever knew you could be." For Taylor Swift, Olivia's story became a permanent reminder that the most important audience for any artist isn't the largest or the loudest, but the one that needs the music most. Watching a 9-year-old girl use songs to process fear, celebrate ability, and ultimately discover new forms of expression had reinforced Taylor's belief that music's greatest purpose is to provide comfort and strength to people navigating their own challenges. And every time Taylor performed "Shake It Off" in subsequent concerts, she would remember Olivia's interpretation of shaking sadness off your shoulders and replacing it with sparkly happiness, understanding that the most profound choreography often comes not from professional training, but from the authentic human need to move through difficult emotions and emerge transformed on the other side. Sometimes the most beautiful art emerges not from perfect conditions, but from the courage to create in the face of uncertainty. Olivia's decision to dance before her surgery wasn't just a farewell to her abilities, it was a celebration of the human spirit's capacity to find joy even when the future is unknown. Her story reminds us that healing doesn't always mean returning to exactly how things were before. Sometimes it means discovering new ways to express the same love and passion that have always lived inside us. When we choose to keep creating, keep moving, keep expressing ourselves despite changed circumstances, we often find that we're more resilient and beautiful than we ever imagined possible.